He was just a really good bloke and very approachable, kind of one of the lads. It wasn't like a cast and crew sort of thing. It was just all of us in the melting pot together.
Mel was a very unusual designer because he was a great artist, but he was a great human as well. So the combination of the two made it a joy for him to work with, and he had a sense of humour. And that's, to get all those three things together in one person of that kind of calibre is quite unusual.
He just had a sort of that real northern warmth to him. There was a real standoff to an extent. And then when he started to see what we were doing, you know, he just had this wicked giggle. He used to sort of...
And the thing about him, possibly other people have said this, I'll be surprised if they haven't, is that he worked so hard, you know? He was always working. When people were, you know, away, you know, on a break or something, you used to see Mel on his own in a studio, maybe with an assistant, you know, running around just fine-tuning bits of the set or something, always working, you know?
He was part of a team, and from my experience, of this team of Peter Ragg, John Pumphrey, Mel Bibby, with this kind of little triptych of blokes that just sat there and got it sorted out. I mean, Mel certainly suffered because of the props. Any kind of props that were developed were in danger because of, I have to say, Craig. Because, I mean, Mel said the definition of a working prop is something Craig hasn't picked up.
We got the brand new Starbug once, you know, and it was the new Starbug, and wow, it's got these, you know, new steering wheels. Oops! You know, and that's Craig, the whole steering wheel, and it would be not his one, it would be my one. So, you know, it would be my one that he'd break. And then after he'd broken your one, then he'd move to his chair, and he'd have his good ones, you know. And then Mel, you know, and then there'd be the conference of how to fix it.
With no money, he could give us a look that was incredibly more on screen than anything we'd had so far.
My name is Hudson. I am the replacement.
That was the technique actually he used, because that's all it was. It was bits of wood with holes in with light through, as opposed to just bits of wood with no holes in. And there was a kind of genius to what he was doing with no money.
Mel wasn't best pleased when I got to design the Starbug first, because that left him with a horrendous problem of building a live action set that was spherical and not the easiest thing to do, and Mel did call me a few names for that, and vowed to get in first in future.
And we would talk kind of unintelligently to Mel, you know, going, well, it's kind of bit like, but you know when you sort of, so you can make it like that, and he'd go, I know what you mean, and you go and do it, and he was fantastic.
I love Gunman of the Apocalypse, which was just fantastic. I mean, you know, we both, every series, seemed to go, you know, more and more, let our imagination go, obviously within the constraints of the budget, but it just seemed to look bigger and more, you know, expensive, even though it was just as tight. And
People talk about that, oh, they threw much more money at it. They never really threw that much more money at it in Series 3, but Mel just used the money so much better to make it look like they had, you know.
Well, I think the sleeping quarters, you know, were, I just think, you know, after they had that revamp, you know, it just made it all just glow a little bit, you know.
Everything was so manic on Red Dwarf, it was always so fast. You never really had time to sit back and think sometimes. On the day, it was all like, get it done, get it done, get it done. And he got a cameraman to pull a camera back. I think he might have even done it himself, just pulled the camera back a little bit and then lined up the shot. And as I walked past, he said, that's a good shot. And he's got his set perfectly framed up. I went, oh yeah, that's why you built it like that, wasn't it? He went, yeah, that's right, I'll take one of those shots.
Late at night, you might see him in the bar, you know, relaxing, but probably never fully relaxing, probably thinking about what tomorrow held for the, you know. And that's what I remember of Mel, just constantly working, you know. Because I often used to get away, come into the studio early during a lunch break and just used to sort of sit and go over a few things, you know, and the only one in the studio, you know, way on the other side hammering away or painting or something, you know, was Mel, you know.
Mel also had an incredibly dry sense of humour, and in fact it was Mel who came up with the idea that Lister would be the kind of guy who would take surgical instruments from the Medilab and use them to eat with. And I went, oh my God, that's such a great idea. We can write a scene around that.
Yeah, you've really made an effort here. Where'd you get all this stuff? I just got sick and tired of using plastic knives and forks, man. So into the medical unit and nicked some gear. This is a scalpel. I'm supposed to cut my food with a scalpel? Something that's been inside someone's guts? It's all been cleaned, it's all been washed, it's clean. Something that long ago in history may well have performed a certain popular Jewish operation.
My memories of Mel are always at the conventions, you know, standing at the back. He always used to listen to everybody's question and answer because he knew we were going to take the mickey out of him.
I remember going to one convention where Mel was there, and they were bidding. There was this real heavy bidding going on for a Crichton rubber mask. And there was this bloke who obviously had a lot more money than everybody else. And he was just bidding for everything. And every time he got something, people were going, oh, like that. And everyone was getting really quite downhearted. And in the end, he bid a lot more for this Crichton mask than anyone else could afford. And this girl that got beaten in the bidding was just, you know, really distraught and stuff. So it came out of the auction, and I was next to Mel, and he goes, come with me, watch this. So he goes up to this girl and says, come out to the car park with me. So, you know, being Mel, she didn't mind. Anyone else, she might not have gone, you know. But, so she went out to the car park. All three of us went out to the car park. And he opened up his boot and he went, here is another Crichton mask. That wasn't the only one in the world.
And you could always go and say, look, is there a way that, you know, you can help us out here, or if we do this, or, you know, what are you doing? And a lot of the time, you know, we really did sort of work almost by telepathy in the way that, you know, we sort of got things done. And, yeah, we all miss him.
The interior of Starbug, for instance, is very alienish, if you like. And it was Alien, really, the first Alien that got away from the clean Star Wars effect. And they went into the more, in the engine rooms were very dirty and dingy and, you know, very mechanical and very, not sci-fi at all, just very industrial. So we tried to reflect that in our ships, where we tend to be more industrial than space age. So we just keep a little bit spacey for the medical labs and stuff like that, but when it becomes down to the engine rooms and the cargo bays, it's very down market and dingy. Keep it dark. Lighting plays a big part in what we do, because we put up a lot of ceiling pieces which are very rarely shot in vision, but they do a lot for lighting because it gives all the gobo effects and shafts of light come through. And so that's why we try to keep it very dark and moody.